demands, not green environmentalist demands. No, those are for wealthy elitists. People whose families are hurting have no time for those kinds of superfluous things, right? Politics is not about the polar bears, the penguins, and so forth, right? It's about working families and their survival. And don't get so caught up on your multicultural demands and your diversity demands that you forget that there's a essential class interest of working people of all kinds, which trumps all of these divisions. So stop focusing on the divisions. The divisions are in effect a divide and conquer counterinsurgency strategy. So I urge people in the PD, break from Renzi, don't follow Renzi, and then model your new formation on Syriza, and maybe you can take power too. Back in a minute. Crisis. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio, our last segment already. This is our last program before the landmark Greek elections of January 25th. Hopefully we will have something to celebrate on the 25th, and then it will take several days to form a government. If a coalition has to be arranged with this ANEL, the independent Greeks, the independent Hellenes, that will be important. Remember, the most dangerous enemy, Stavros Theodorakis and his demagogic river party. Don't let Theodorakis sell you down the river, because that's what he wants to do. So we'll be following every detail of the Greek situation, including next week. Now, here in the United States, this political spectacle circus of the State of the Union address. Our campaign, people might have seen it, our social media campaign for the Tax Wall Street Party and the United Front Against Austerity was hashtag SOTU, S-O-T-U, State of the Union, telling Obama you should include the Wall Street sales tax, even if it's only 0.1%, and even if it's only stocks, that's still $80 billion a year, 80 billion, according to the estimates coming from Congressman Van Hollen, ranking Democrat on the House Budget Committee, for many years my congressman. And I did try to get the Democratic Party establishment here to go with the Wall Street sales tax. And of course, Van Hollen immediately endorsed by Pelosi. So we can call it the Pelosi-Van Hollen Wall Street sales tax, 0.1% on stocks alone. Again, we want 1% on stocks, derivatives, and bonds that are not U.S. state or federal bonds. All other bonds should also pay this. Well, what do we have? Obama didn't do that. That's a terrible mistake. On the other hand, he did have at least some kind of a political pulse going. The idea of 2 free years of community college is a good one. In the 21st century, if you want to keep ahead of China and the other pitiless international competition, every American must go to college. Without a college degree, I'm talking 4 years, you're going to be virtually unemployable. Now, of course, you can be unemployable with such a degree also. It's better to think about science, mathematics, engineering, things of this sort. On the other hand, certain people do have talents for the humanities, and they're also needed in ways that are not so much to do with production as socially necessary elements, things that have to do with government, culture, publishing, journalism, and so forth. So, community college for everybody, absolutely. But who's going to pay? Time for Wall Street to pay. The whole U.S. system is based on the ideas that banks, businesses, corporations expect a trained workforce, but you have to pay to prepare to work in their business. No, Wall Street, corporations, you guys will pay a hefty share with interest for training the manpower that you think you're going to get in the future. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. And it's not, I'm not talking some vindictive penalty. I'm just saying it won't be there for you. One of the great failings, in particular of Austrian school economics, is that it fails to account for where people come from. Social reproduction, population growth, demographics, all the social expenses of educating and treating a rising generation. Austrians in particular just have no idea. They think there's an unlimited supply of people coming from somewhere, and you can just put them in the meat grinder. Then the minimum wage. Obama wants to raise the minimum wage to $10.10. An impudent Republican, his name is Aaron Schock from Illinois, reactionary Republican, RR Illinois, comes on and says, oh, this is a fraud. You can't live on $7.25 an hour, but you can't live on $10.10 either. And therefore, what he concludes from that is, don't raise it at all. Sorry, Schock. Go back to shock theater. You've shocked everybody by your callous indifference, cruelty, stupidity, and the rest. Obama wants child care. He wants some relatively modest things. This is kind of like the second term of Clinton, small bore, things that are widely supported but don't add up to much. And anyway, it won't work because the reactionary Republicans, they're hysterical about these demands, the small bore ones. In particular, we have to remember that virtually the first thing the Republicans did, in the House anyway, was a maneuver to prevent transferring money from one trust fund to another inside Social Security. They're trying to make it impossible to transfer money from certain funds into the Social Security Disability Trust Fund. And since there's not enough dedicated money going in to the Social Security Disability Trust Fund, then they're going to cut the disability payments by 20%. The blind, the cripples, the maimed, these are the people that the Republicans attack. How despicable. How despicable. But, and of course, the Austrians will put an ideological glow on it, right? They'll say, oh, this is our fight against big government. The fight against cripples and the blind has nothing to do with the fight against big government. You don't fight big government at all. Little Rand wants to take over big government. And remember, Ron Paul was the champion of earmarks, right? He'd insert the earmark for Galveston in the dead of night. Then when the bill came to the floor, he'd vote against it while the bill passed with the Democratic votes. So the Obama small bore stuff is all fine, but it doesn't make a recovery. It doesn't make the big change. And the triumphalism is not really the right thing for this kind of situation. The two worst things that Obama has, of course, fast track for free trade. We're against that. We don't want the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We don't want the free trade bill with Europe. This is now the giant sucking sound in two directions as jobs leave the U.S. And Obama says this time it's different. Sorry, Obama, we can't believe that. This has been going on now for 20 years, and we have nothing but massive losses. So no, rather, we go the other way. The protective tariff, really, it's actually a revenue tariff, but 10 to 15% on all imports, except ones that you really want to have. We can handle that. But 10 to 15% across the board, that would have been a revenue tariff in the old days. Today, it would function as a protective tariff. To make people build factories in the U.S. And other people should do the same thing. This is not a matter of retaliation. The other one, of course, is Obama prating about global warming. Well, Obama, the medieval warm period occurred far earlier, well before any fossil fuels were being burned in any considerable amount. And it was warmer then than it is now. It is a matter of sunspot activity, right? We're talking about the medieval high point of sunspot activity, and then the Maunder minimum corresponding to the European little ice age of the 1600s. So it's keyed to sunspot and generally solar activity, solar flares and other solar activity. And there is the embarrassment of the global warming freaks that for the past 10 or 15 years, there's no visible increase in the in the temperatures on Earth that they have been measuring and shrieking about. Okay, then of course the pageantry. Perhaps at the top of the list, of course, Joni Ernst. The niche left open by Michelle Bachmann has immediately been filled. This is the